In the board game hobby, it seems like there's a big emphasis on big boxes. Bigger is always better, right? Well, our friends at Pretzel Games decided to downsize Camel up with the card game edition. Tonight, Rolling with the Beard, we take a gander at this guy. Here we have the table set up for a 4-player game of Camel Up the card game. This plays 2 to 6 players, and it's a betting game. Players will be betting on these camels, and they'll be getting points at the end of each leg, depending on how the camels perform. Now, the camels don't just entirely move on their own. Players will be playing cards into a race deck that will get shuffled, so players don't know exactly when the cards that they played or what other cards other players played, when they'll come up and how they'll move, but they do have some insight into what camels may move and how far they may move. Players will receive a hand of cards depending on the number of players, and they will discard some of the cards, and then another amount of cards will go into the race deck, and then one card will go in front of them face up. So players always have to take a racetrack action each turn. That could be playing the card that they played in front of themselves, or maybe a card that another player has in front of themselves. They do have to give that player a coin, or they could flip over a card from the race deck that was built from all the cards that the players collectively played together. Other race actions they could take is they could put these shortcut tokens out on the board, and when a camel lands on that, they will actually skip ahead of space. The opposite of that, they could also put these Finnick tiles out on the board, and when a camel lands on that, they actually go back a space. But what's interesting about this game, though, is when a camel does move forward, it takes any camels on top of it along with it. So it may appear that this green camel isn't doing very well, but all it would take is the right card to move it 2 spaces forward. Now it's on top of all these other camels. Now it's in second place. Camels on the top of a stack are known to be ahead of camels lower on the stack. But there's also another monkey wrench in this. There is a crazy camel that has been disqualified from the race, and it is going in the opposite direction. So then camels can land on this one, and this camel is actually moving in the opposite direction. Each race deck that is built from the cards that the players added to it also receives 2 of these crazy camel cards each round, so that crazy camel could be moving anywhere from 0 to 2 spaces each round. And in addition to the racetrack action, players can also take a bidding action, so they can take any of these leg cards or end of race card. This just means that you think that the purple camel is going to win the race, or maybe you think the purple is going to lose the race. There are also end of the leg scoring cards, so maybe you think purple is going to be in the lead at the end of the leg. This will grant you 5 points, and there are multiple copies of each, but the sooner you take them, the more points they're worth. So this is worth 5 points, and it goes down to 3, and then 2, and then 2. There's also some additional leg bets too, like these cards down here say that you think that the purple camel will end in exactly 3rd place for 2 coins, or 1 coin for 2nd or 4th place, or lose a coin if it's in any other place. So each leg, players will continue to add cards into a race deck. That race deck gets shuffled, camels move, and then people see if they won any of their bets, and then rinse and repeat until one of the camels crosses the finish line. And the player with the most cash at the end of the game is the winner. So that was a brief overview of Camel Up the card game. This is a great little game. It's great. It's fun. It comes in a tiny package, which I like. The components are more than adequate. The material that the camels are made out of is very strange. I don't know. It almost feels like a bowling ball or something. But they're nice, chunky pieces, which I guess they have to be since you're stacking them on top of each other. The cardboard punch-out pieces are okay, but the standees, like they don't stay together. For the Finnick and the shortcut tiles, they just fall apart every time. You're best just not even standing them up and placing the tokens on there. I don't see why they didn't just do that in the first place, but yeah, the table presence in this one obviously does not hold a candle to the original Camel Up, or I guess the 2nd edition with the pop-up palm tree in the background, and you know, that nice plastic pyramid that poops out the dice, which is pretty entertaining. Does this game replace the original Camel Up? Absolutely not. No, it doesn't. Does this game have a place in my collection? It does, and I'll tell you why. You can keep this like in your glove box of your car, and you can pull it out pretty much anywhere and just play a quick little game of Camel Up. It does say, I think, 30 to 45 minutes. I feel like that's a little long. It's really only like a 20-minute game, which is great for lunch times or when you want to waiting on someone to show up to game night. So it doesn't have as much table presence as the original one, but I feel it's just as exciting, and I feel like it's almost a better game because you have a little more control over what the actual camels do. And you can kind of take a look around the table and see, you know, so-and-so, they have yellow winning the whole race. So maybe they're going to pop some yellow cards into there. So maybe I'll try to mitigate what I add to the race deck. Or, you know, maybe playing the cards that the players have face up in front of them. Maybe play those cards. You have to give them a coin, which sucks. But you can maybe play those cards at the wrong time, or what they think is the wrong time, to kind of pop off maybe a strategy that they were trying to aim for and throw them off their whole game and just watch their world come crashing around them, which is great fun. So it doesn't replace the original. It is a different enough game that I feel like you can have both of them in a collection, and I'm going to keep both of them. Unfortunately, the card game only plays 6, which after playing it and that the players are what control what actually moves the camels, I feel like if you were to play it with 7 or 8 players, like I believe the original Camel Up does, it would just be too much chaos. Actually, the card game with 6 players is quite chaotic. I believe you even add extra cards from the deck into there. But I find this game best at 4. So, you know, it does play 6, but it's best at 4. It really is. It's okay with 2. 2 players, it actually isn't bad, because, you know, you know what half of the cards in that race deck are. So it's kind of interesting, the little 2-player sword fight that you can play with this. Overall, it is a great game. It's definitely staying in the Beards collection, and I highly recommend it, especially for the low price. I believe the street price, or the MSRP, is maybe 15 bucks. I feel like for $15, this is an absolute banger of a filler game. So in conclusion, it's cheap, go grab it. It looks pretty, great pieces, it's a lot of fun. Definitely staying in the Beards collection. And if you found this episode entertaining or informative at all, please consider clicking that subscribe button and leave a comment down below on which version you think is the superior Camel Up. And it's Camel Up, it's not Camel Cup. It should have been Camel Cup. I mean, that, like, it was an obvious joke. Or like an obvious, like, that was the obvious thing, was that it was Camel Cup. Yet they made it Camel Up. Why?